Hey Regina, it's Zach here. I just finished watching my video recording of why the death penalty is necessary, and I have written enough notes to reflect on my strengths and weaknesses. Before I go dip down into the categories of organization, content, delivery, and verbal citations, I want to go over my overall general strengths and weaknesses. My main strengths: one, I felt like I gave good, adequate eye contact. Not perfect, but enough to keep the audience engaged and to not be solidly glued to my note cards as if I was talking to a wall. My other thing is I was also talking loudly and proudly. I was able to project my voice really well and was able to get the whole room to hear my message. My other thing is that my hand gestures and movements were actually really smooth. The way I was pacing back and forth, I wasn't stationary, and I was also moving my hands toward the audience to keep them engaged and reeled into what I was saying. And honestly, I didn't feel like there was any hiccup in that. My weakness is definitely my stutter that appears occasionally in moments throughout the speech. My speech impediment has been something that I've been dealing with all my life, and I feel like I've overall conquered it. It's something that appears when I'm in an uncomfortable situation or I'm not really in a controlled environment. Like for example, like I was more prone to stuttering because I'm not used to talking to a big group of people, but I'm talking much more clearly because I'm right here, controlled environment in my room, speaking to you through a camera phone, and it's a much more different feeling. And I also should have rehearsed my speech a little better. Like I said, I'm not used to talking to many people at once, and I feel like that if I had rehearsed more, like I rehearsed a good 2-3 hours, if I had given myself an extra hour, it would have given me that push to deliver stronger and not stumble on so many words and sentences. Alright, so let's get down to organization. Like I said, I relied on my note cards a little too much during segments, but I felt like I kept the audience involved through sight contact and emphasizing to them the strong message that I had. Content is where I feel like I nailed it the best. I feel my word choice, use of sources, and selection of evidence, they were all very strong. But the only thing was they weren't delivered strong, which I will get to in a minute. Not only was my information following logos, it also tapped into pathos really well, which is what I was trying to do. And I was actually really impressed with myself with how I was able to blend logos and pathos into the fabric of my speech so well. That's one of the things that I was really happy about myself when I was watching those recordings, both watching, hearing, and listening. Finally, well, not finally. Here's delivery. Delivery is where I have my weakest suit. Like I'm starting to I get nervous just talking about it. My words were strong, but they weren't delivered properly due to my stuttering and now how I feel inadequate rehearsing. I should have given myself more time to rehearse, like I said, and should have practiced stating the more difficult words and sentences in order to give a more clear, proper message. Alright, now that we got that little bump out of the way, I want to finally give my verbal citations. My citations were strong, but this kind of blends in with how I was with delivery. They weren't exactly spoken clearly, which is why when you first hear my speech, it sounds a little muddled in that aspect of supporting it with facts, but like you said, if you go back, you can see it. The sources are there and they're stated. They're just not as clear as they could have been. I would also try to talk about them fast in order to meet the time limit, because when I was rehearsing, my first rehearsal, my speech ended up being 14 minutes long, and I had to cut down a lot of stuff. And I found that if I spoke a little faster, and then I would meet the time limit earlier, out of fear of going over 8 minutes and losing points just for that. It's like I don't want to work this hard just to lose points over going over the time limit. So that's what I was nervous about. And I noticed that my citations, especially when it came to talking about giving the amendments and everything, it took up a lot of time. So I felt like I needed to express them through my dialogue quicker in order to reach the time limit, and in order that I ended up stumbling over them, or they just weren't, or they won't be captured at first hearing. But overall, yeah, my verbal citations were very clear, and I just need to work on making them clear for my next speech, which I will be giving on April 18th. That's pretty much my reflection of the speech. Thank you for everything that you do to make me a better speaker, and I'll see you next Tuesday. Thanks.